Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Steel News, and I'm Ann Vandersteel. And today's show is about truth, like as if it isn't always about truth. But this is a kind of truth that the political machine, the folks in the swamp have tried to suffocate for 4 long years. Apparently, this truth is so dangerous to the establishment that one woman, a county clerk from Mesa County, Colorado, now sits in a state prison for exposing it. You guys have to know her name by now. If you don't, please say it after me. After me, her name is Tina Peters. Tina Peters, you can find her on X at Real Tina Peters. And today we're going to show you why she was right, about everything. What you're going to see is an opinion. It's not a rumor. It's not a theory. It is pure, unadulterated data. Scientific, reproducible, mathematical proof from Mesa County, even El Paso County, Arapahoe, Nevada, Maryland, Grand Junction, all of these counties, you're going to see the following. Cast vote records. These are the records that show impossible synchronization between Republican and Democrat voting patterns. What mathematicians call lockstep parallel motion. You're going to learn about timing belts. These reveal ballots arriving and being processed in engineered, not human sequences. You're also going to learn about precinct-preserved shuffle tests. Yep, this is the gold standard that proves that the certified results could not have happened in a natural human election. And in Grand Junction, the election that first triggered Tina's alarm, we see 9 simultaneous instances of lockstep behavior, an event so mathematically improbable it exceeds 1 in a billion odds. We're also going to show you why Tina understood that what she found wasn't just a local issue. It was a national one, a coordinated systemic manipulation of American elections through software-driven flip functions, algorithmic timing, and a registration roll system designed to feed phantom ballots into machine-counted results. For this, Tina Peters was prosecuted. For this, she was silenced. For this, she has been locked away. But the evidence she preserved, the images she took, the records she saved have now been analyzed by independent experts across the country, and the verdict is clear. Tina Peters did her duty. Tina Peters told the truth, and Tina Peters must be freed. Joining me now is an election integrity researcher, Roger Fuller, whose work validates the very data that Tina risked her life and career to document. Let's begin. Roger, great to have you here. Please join me up on the stage as we dive into what I consider to be the black abyss of election integrity. And apparently there's really smart people that swim around this black abyss, and you happen to be just one of them who has now put this together into a slide presentation that we're going to painstakingly go through, although you've made it a lot less painful, so people can be fully aware of what Tina uncovered and what she preserved, and frankly, what President Trump should be screaming from the rooftops to make sure she is out of state prison yesterday. So thanks for being here.
My pleasure and my honor to be with you. Thank you.
Well, Roger, I want to start really simple here because this election integrity
conversation. Let me interject something first. You mentioned the registration and the fake ballot stuff. That's how I actually got started on this stuff. I did analysis of registration patterns. So back in the day when it, before motor voter and stuff, that took a little effort to get registered. About 65% of the eligible people would register, and only about half of them would vote. These are people actually interested in what's going on. So what you'd find is that the 35% maybe of eligible population, that's over 18 population, would vote. So I did this big study especially across the states that were obviously rigging during 2020. And with the fresh 2020 census, I did county by county in several states. And Michigan, for example, has 83 counties, and 67 of those counties, there's only 17 left over. 67 of those counties have more than 100% of the eligible population registered.
Okay. Gee, that's a miracle.
And then they're having like 80 or 90% turnout on that.
Yeah. Okay, listen, so, we know this. I live in Florida. We have the county that I live in had 137% turnout. I'm sorry, the county next door to the one I live in had 137% turnout. when they planted Limousine liberal Patrick Murphy in and got rid of Colonel Allen West, and they stole that election years ago. So we're very well read up on Florida.
This situation in Florida is my big disappointment in Ron DeSantis, because he knew about this and did nothing about it.
Right.
So.
Well, we're going to get to the bottom of that, because I've been having dialogue through mutual people that are connected to Supervisor of Elections, Wendy Sartori Link. She's the SOE down here in Palm Beach County, and she's actually the queen. She's the top SOE for the state. So everything rolls up to her. And the teams that have been working down here around the clock that have put together what I consider the most very compelling evidence of how they've stolen elections here, particularly down ballot ones, is so overwhelming that, I've been posting about it. And apparently she wants to have a conversation with me. So there is a meeting that is being set up, and I'm going to bring this very intelligent team in that has been, providing data to me that I have, basically displayed in lay speak so the public can understand, and it's ruffled some feathers. So I think we need to get to the bottom of it. But according to my connections, they say that she wants to resolve these issues, which I think is fantastic. So I'm open to the meeting. I'm looking forward to having a dialogue, presenting the evidence, and hopefully we can resolve these issues. But let's refocus here on Tina, because we got to keep us a little.
Well, Michigan was the worst. Colorado was, I think, second.
Right.
24 of the 64 counties in Colorado have more than 100% registered. In Colorado's all mail votes. So every one of those fake registrations generates a mail ballot that goes into an unmonitored drop box and winds up at the central counting location.
Okay.
So this is the beginning of the story.
Great. So I want to just, before we dive into the slides, I want to keep it very simple. So for people who really aren't data analysts, looking at Mesa County, what is the number one thing they need to understand about what happened there, where Tina was the Mesa County clerk?
Well, the situation is that the elections are rigged everywhere. Mm-hmm. Basically, is what we can say with certainty. Tina was elected the county clerk in 2018, took office in 2019. The person she replaced had been there for a while, was had term limited. And her name is Sheila Reiner. If you look up Sheila Reiner, she's the Dominion Voting Systems representative for Colorado. And she's got a Dominion Voting Systems email address. And I think she's getting paid by them.
She wasn't the Dominion Voting Systems employee at the time she was county clerk, though, was she?
Oh, yes.
Oh, there's no conflict of interest there at all, is there?
Oh, yes. And so she was term limited on being county clerk, so she ran for treasurer. So she was the current treasurer, and she's the person that the Secretary of State put in charge of elections in Mesa County when she removed Tina from her position, which is kind of illegitimate because she was an elected official.
Right.
How does somebody get removed from an elected position without going through some kind of process of impeachment or something, So Tina was administratively removed after 2021, and Sheila Reiner was reinstalled to take over. So
how convenient.
This whole thing is the biggest conspiracy mess you've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I think you've answered my next question before we dive into the slides, because I was asking, why is Mesa so important? Why does the data from a small Colorado county matter to the entire nation? But you've got foxes guarding the hen house, and they're living in the hen house.
Yes.
And working for the.
And so what happened with Tina was that Tina, if you ever watched her Selection Code movie, after the 2020 election, she had heard all the stuff about the election being rigged for Trump, but she didn't really. She thought her election was okay, and in fact, the Mesa County general election was not obviously rigged. I mean, when we go back and look at everything, along with everything else in Colorado, it's all connected. But it wasn't abusively rigged. And it turns out that in Mesa County, the vote was almost 2-1 Trump over Biden in the presidential election. So Mesa County is a really red county. That's actually one of the first slides. We should get into the slides. Okay, but then they had this little local election in Grand Junction, And so if we go to that, let me see. I'll put it up.
Okay,
Let me put it up.
go
Okay, so
for
I
it.
guess, share. How do I share screen here?
It says
Okay,
present or invite underneath.
present or invite. I don't see present or invite.
Underneath the images of you and me, there's not some boxes.
Is it tools?
It shouldn't be. It should be right there. Let's see
Okay,
here.
share screen. There it is. Okay, share screen. Screen sharing with easiest than two monitors. Share screen. Okay, I'm going to share this screen. Wait a minute, I want to share the big screen. Okay, no, I want to share my big screen and I want to put this on the slideshow from beginning. Okay, share. Why won't it's not letting me hit the button to share.
Let's see here.
I don't know. It might cancel. Okay, let me get the slideshow started from beginning.
If you cannot, it says if you do not
Monitors.
see a present button underneath, a big square that says present underneath our images,
Present. Yes. Okay, there we
that's
are.
what you got to do. Hit
Present.
present and then go to the top. It says slides and PDFs.
Slides and PDFs.
There you go.
Or no, it says share. Do I share screen?
No, don't do share screen. Do present slides and PDFs.
Okay. Upload file.
And if you click
Okay.
on slides and PDFs, you should be able to go add file from underneath. It will pick on the bottom of that drop down. It might even
And
have it already in there.
show.
If not, I have it all keyed up.
You have the new one. You have the new one.
Yeah, the one you sent me just now.
Okay. So it's processing. Okay, there it is. Okay. Is everybody seeing that now?
Yep, everybody sees it.
Okay. So how do I go to the next one? All right. You're gonna control that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just do this. Here we go.
So this is the Mesa County 2020 general.
Yep.
And we can see 90,600 ballots, and Trump over Biden is 1.8 to 1. It's almost 2 to 1. Okay.
Correct.
Then we show the general election. And what happened in that Mesa County, they had a couple of ballot measures that were just Grand Junction. So I looked at the Grand Junction ballot measures to pull out a subset of Grand Junction voters to see what they were doing in the 2020 election. So you see in the any of three category there, I got 50,000 Grand Junction voters,
Mm-hmm.
and they voted 3 to 2, 1.5 to 1, 3 to 2, also for Trump over Biden. So this is a really red county, even though going back later, this was pushed a little bit, along with everything else in Colorado, to favor Democrats. Okay, so the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happens is there's a small election in Grand Junction only for the city council races, and there were 4 city council races and 3 ballot measures, 5 precincts. Okay, so all 4 of the Republican incumbents were defeated, and with really similar vote totals. I mean, if you look at the Republican vote totals, they're all within a few hundred. The 63, 69, 61, 61. They're all these vote totals are very, very similar, which was suspicious in the first place. Okay, and this is a totally red county and city, and like Sharona Butler had been working in this area to make sure that the right people got elected to the city council in Grand Junction.
Right.
And the thing was completely overturned. Okay. So it's 3 to 2 the other direction. It's 3 to 2 the opposite direction, and totally unexpected. Doesn't make any sense. And this is when Tina realized, hey, something's going on, and she started looking into it.
So
Okay.
so essentially what you're showing us here is that in Grand Junction, they elected basically, I think it was four, right?
Or
Four far left city council candidates
yeah,
passing
very very far left. I mean,
very far left. They passed three
if you
measures.
read their statements, you hear things like, we got to have LGBTQ imposed on all the kids in the schools and stuff.
Okay. So
You know,
they're electing four far left city council candidates. They passed three measures. Statistically, how unlikely is that given the 2020 baseline from when Trump won, or
well,
sorry, 2020 baseline of when the Trump votes that have showed up?
again, this is what we get to is we don't really get particular proof of who was pushed to win or who was not pushed to win.
So what
What
was it that caught Tina's attention on this extreme inversion?
it caught Tina's attention because this outcome was just insane. Okay, that they flipped these four Republicans to Democrat all the same, all at once.
Right.
And when 6 months before the same people had voted 3-2 for Trump. Okay, it's completely reversed, and the people that wound up getting installed into these positions are nuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So
but that's what we see. That's what we see in the government.
What Edward and I have been doing is not really looking at how many votes were changed or how many of this or how many of that, which candidate should have won, anything like that. Our real objective is to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were manipulated algorithmically. Okay, that the operation was to manipulate the ballots. We are proving that the things these outcomes we see are not possible in a normal election, which means that it must have been something happening through software manipulation during the process. So basically, it's not about overturning an election. It's about getting absolute proof so we can require that these systems be removed. Okay, that's what our objective is. So
Okay.
something like this is this is just the flag that was raised. This election was so unusual that Tina started looking into things. Okay.
Sure. So
and shortly after this, in the middle of April, I guess as soon as Tina started asking questions, in the middle of April, Dominion Voting Systems she was ordered to let Dominion Voting Systems come in and install a trusted build, quote unquote.
right.
Now, it's a trusted build because it gets rid of all the evidence from the previous elections.
Right. And didn't she get a letter from Dominion that told her to back up the systems because they were going to do this trusted build?
I'm not sure about that, but she knows that one of her parts of her job is to do so.
Right.
So she asked for support to send for them to send in an IT person to make a backup of the disk, and that was refused, and then they started this persecution.
Right.
So the things that she's been convicted of are tampering with election equipment, or identity theft, bringing in somebody who's unauthorized, that kind of stuff, because she had to bring in somebody unauthorized. And she borrowed a badge from one of her other subordinates to bring him in. And so, but they got the data, and they gave that, that went to Jeff O'Donnell, Raccoon, and to Code Monkey Z. Okay, and so one of the things they have her in jail on is that Code Monkey Z, in one of his shows, there was a blurred partial password that you could read a few of the digits of. Okay, turns out it was an expired password. Okay, and that's one of the things, is revealing a password. That's one of the charges that she had and was convicted on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out that just in the lead up to the 2024 election, Jenna Griswold released 6,000 active passwords.
Right.
Anyone could read, and nothing happens.
The Secretary of State
Yeah.
released the passwords, the BIOS passwords.
Yeah. of
Right.
6,000 of them.
But
You
she's
know,
still Secretary of State and she's still walking around
oh
freely.
yeah, and I actually saw an interview with her on one of the TV stations, and they said, but you released these 6,000. Why is Tina in jail? Why aren't you? She says, oh no, Tina's this horrible person, did all this bad stuff, and so forth. Anyway, she's just bald faced, evil.
Right.
Anyway, okay, so now this I want to explain lockstep motion. So in a normal election, you would see as people started voting, you'd see the totals bouncing around a little bit, and then the Democrats and Republicans would settle as soon as you got to say if you this one's Arapahoe County 450,000. By the time they got to 30 or 40,000, you'd see a straight line all the way across. Okay, so the first thing is so what we do is we look at we take the people who voted for Trump and no, and the people voted for Biden and no, like Trump and no over Trump and no plus Trump and yes. Okay, so the fraction of people who voted no on a ballot issue. This particular ballot issue is a raises taxes, and the taxes in Colorado have quadrupled. Property taxes have quadrupled since this passed. Okay, so we take the ratio of Trump and no versus Trump and no and Trump and yes, and we take the ratio of Biden and no and versus Biden and no and Biden and yes, and we plot those on a graph of a rolling average from of like 10% of the votes. So each increment we're looking at 45,000 votes. When we finish that average, we plot it, and then I add the next ballot and I take off the data from the first ballot. Okay, and so I just have like a stack of plates. Okay,
right.
I add a ballot to the totals, and take the average, and then I remove the one from the bottom. Okay, and then I keep doing that all the way through the process. And here's the result we get on the top. We got from Arapahoe County. This was on their website for 4 years. And you can't even hardly see that they're different. The red and the blue are the Trump and the Biden. And the yellow is the overall. And they're completely on top of each other and completely in lockstep. Okay? And this should look a lot more like the bottom one. So Arapahoe County, after we submitted the upper show here into evidence in a case in Nevada, Arapahoe County replaced the cast vote record, and this is what comes out in the replacement cast vote record. They're separated now, like the rest of the counties. And what we think is that they missed the shuffle part. They did the first two parts of the rig and then missed the third part, which shuffles things to restore the separation between Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
Okay, you look at the other counties, but the other thing about this is these are bouncing around too. They shouldn't bounce around either. They should be flat lines. And if you look at the red one, what you see is it's actually an overall trend downwards. Okay. And the blue line is not on the bottom thing. The blue line is not so much, the blue line is flatter. Okay. So anyway, this is probability that this can happen. And Arapahoe County, when they realized that they had this anomaly showing up in their cast vote record, they changed the cast vote record. The cast vote record is the basis for certification of the election.
Right.
This is like going back. This is like going back 5 years later and changing all the stats and all the scores in the World Series.
So they basically changed the original cast vote record with a later replacement file with the same name, but totally different content. And they, like you said, forgot to separate it out so that you would have 3 different lines, red, yellow, and blue. And in fact, they all stacked up on top of one another, which shows lockstep, which is fraud. I mean, it just does not happen.
The lockstep in the original cast vote record was this obvious crazy stuff, right?
Right. Okay.
So the
All-
replacement cast vote record looks a lot like the rest of the counties that finished the job before they put out their cast vote record.
Okay.
What it shows is the cast vote record is a forgery.
Right.
In this case, both of them are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So okay. Go. So this is the story on lockstep motion. How we find it. We look at some difference in Nevada. We did Trump mail versus Trump early, and then Biden mail versus Biden early, and we find some patterns like. So it's really making up a set of four items that we can then compare to each other. Because when we make a set like this, Trump no, Trump yes, Biden no, Biden yes, is what's called a disjoint set. They shouldn't communicate. They should be completely independent of each other. So
Right.
when we find things that connect them together like this, there's something going on inside those in the software.
Yeah.
To
Clearly.
produce that. Okay.
Clearly. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to move us on to the rolling average and the rolling totals explained, because many people don't really understand, Roger, what rolling averages are and what they are in cast vote records. So when we get to the next slide, can you explain very simply how rolling windows work and why they reveal algorithmic manipulation? Because that's really what we're seeing right now.
Okay. So the previous ones use a rolling average, and that was 450,000 ballots in the whole thing. So we add them. We take Biden and yes, Trump and yes, so forth and so on. We got four counters. So the next ballot comes in, we add the ballot, if it's Trump and yes, we add one to that counter. Okay. And we do that for the first 45,000, we just add them up because we got to get the window. Okay. So when we get to 45,000, we take those ratios, okay, and we add them to our totalizer of the overall thing, which is going to be the average of that, the average of each. We do it every step, every time a ballot comes in. So the next ballot comes in. What we do is we add the data from this ballot, and we as we're doing the first 45,000, we just put them on. Once we've added it to the counter, we put it on a stack. Okay. So we get to 45,000, we take the average. And then what we do is we've got the average for that window, put it out to the file. Then we pull the one off the bottom of the stack and subtract its data from the counters. And we add the data from the next ballot on top of the counters. And we do that for every ballot all the way through. So and we do an average, every ballot comes in. We do a new average of the last 45,000. That's a rolling average. So the window's 45,000, ballot comes in, we subtract the last one on the bottom of the stack, we add the next one on the top of the stack, we take that moment in time, that's the average, then we take the average for that. And so we show the average every ballot all the way along. It's a rolling average.
Right.
That's a rolling average. Now in the Grand Junction election, there was only 16,000 ballots. So we don't really have enough to have the averages be meaningful. So what we do is and the window is only 1,600. So we add up the first 1,600. And when we get 1,600, we put out the values in the counters. Now there's 16 counters in this one because we've got four races with 2 candidates each. So there's 8 of those, and then there's yes and no. So there's 16 counters. So as each ballot comes in, we add the values to the correct counter. When we get 1,600, we get to the window, we put them out, the numbers, not the averages. And then we subtract the numbers from the first ballot on the bottom of the stack, and we add the numbers from the top ballot on the top of the stack. And so we just put out the numbers in the rolling window. Okay, so we just have the numbers in the rolling window. The way we look at this now to see where we see the lockstep motion is at the end. We take the average of each column. So, like it might have been 600 votes for the first one, and then going up to 620 and coming down to 610, going up and down like that.
Hmm.
Okay. So we take the average of each one over the whole process, and then we take the difference from the average over the overall average at every ballot. So we're looking at how much it changes every ballot step. It's the derivative. It's the first derivative. So they're changing in lockstep as you go through. So it's even more significant because
Right.
when you take the derivative, okay.
Right.
So is that understandable?
Yeah, no,
Everybody
it is and it isn't, but I visually I see this as like an army, and whether you have a Russian army, a Chinese army, and a U.S. army, they're all marching in the same cadence, and we
Yeah.
all have different marching styles, and so the Chinese I think have their legs really high up, and the Russians do something, and we do something, right? We shouldn't look the same. And in fact, what has happened, they all look the same. And that is very problematic because let's face it, the right and the left aren't the same animal, and they don't vote the same. They don't vote the same on propositions and agendas and other ballot initiatives. So to see something come out like that,
But
is
maybe
very
the army analogy is more like you've got the Russian army and the American army, and they're having losses. Okay, so the number in each squadron goes up and down
right.
as they get losses and replacements. They're at different times. Okay, so we think of time as the clock here. It's time, but the tick of the clock is the next ballot coming in.
Right.
Okay, so at any time you take a snapshot of these two armies, this squad's down a man, and then a little while later he's up a man again. Okay,
Right.
so we take the average of the squad strength across the whole time window, and we plot how it changes
Right.
at each ballot interval. Okay, so yes, the two armies have different
Head counts.
up and downs. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Right.
what we're looking at is how did it change from this ballot to the next ballot to the next ballot? It's the first derivative of the number.
Right.
Okay, so as the number changes, we see a result. If the number stayed the same, we'd see no difference.
Right.
Okay, so we see differences. At each ballot comes in, we see, oh, this one went up. This guy went up 2 or 3 at the next ballot, or the next few ballots. And so in the window, as you see, each window. One ballot, each window is one ballot wide. Okay.
Right.
So as you go a few ballots down the line, you see this guy's gone up 5. Okay. And so that's how much change it's been in that set of windows.
So in this slide right here on your next slide, looking at Grand Junction in 2021, you actually exhibit 9 cases of lockstep, because this slide right here shows 9 separate instances of lockstep behavior. Statistically, how improbable is it to even see 1, much less 9?
Well, with this small number of ballots, Edward's done the work on this. That for instance, in one of these, it's like 12 to 1. Okay, the chance might be, if you had if just one of these showed up, you'd say, okay, there's a chance of 1 in 12 that this could happen normally. Okay, but then another one shows up. What's the chance that could happen normally? Maybe if it was the only one that showed up, it might be 1 in 10.
Right.
Okay, but and the next one, if it was the only one that showed up, it might be 1 in 15. Okay, but they all show up.
So what does this tell us about whether or not Grand Junction elections were manipulated in real time?
It's just the lockstep says that at the very, very minimum, you have 9 races at 12 to 1. That's 12 to the 9th. It's 3 point something billion.
Right.
One chance in 3 point something billion, and that's
better chance for the lottery ticket.
That's not even a real picture, because if 1 happens, the chance that this one happens at 1 in 12, the next one happening might be 1 in 500. Having a second one happen.
Wow.
And having a third one happen, it might be 1 in 10,000.
Wow.
And having a fourth one might be 1 in a million.
So
this compounds. We can't even you can't even write this number. We've been
It's just
talking about
ludicrous.
this one, King James Bible has 787,000 words and 3 million characters. We're talking about this one being biblical, that there's the first character in the King James Bible is a 1. All the rest of the characters are zeros. That's kind of this kind of number.
Right. All right. So
Okay?
moving forward, looking at the next 7, 8, 9, 10, the next 4 slides, right?
Right.
We've got
Okay,
we've
so
got pairs of Republicans and Democrats, yes, no tracks moving in impossible coordination.
yes,
Can you
but
walk
so
us through what we're seeing here and how Republican yes, no votes track perfectly alongside Democrat yes, no votes?
okay, so some of these are not Republican Democrat, but so this one shows the upper left shows the this these numbers, the rolling the derivative, the rolling difference between the average
Mm-hmm.
for the Republican no is the dark blue, and the Republican yes is the light blue. The Democrat no is the dark red. The Democrat yes is the light red.
By the
You
way, I
see
just want to address Karen Crowder. She popped in here from X, and yes, the DOJ is on this. Ed Martin has publicly tweeted about this. They are focused on Tina Peters right now.
Yeah, Ed Martin has this slideshow.
Great.
Thanks to you. And so anyway, if you just look at this globally, that it doesn't look too much like they're synchronized. But if you see the light red goes up when the dark red goes down.
Right.
And so what this is not actually lockstep. This is what we call anti-lockstep, anti-parallel. Okay. So now on the right you see actually this is hates versus the inverse of hates and yes. Hates and no versus the inverse of hates and yes. And you see that they're on top of each other. Mostly. Not as obviously as that Arapaho stuff. The Arapaho stuff was just stunning. But you can see that they track each other. And this is the derivative.
Right.
And then you see in the lower left slide you see let me see that's the other district. That's green and no versus the inverse of green and yes. Okay, so and the lower right plot is the two against each other, so we can do a correlation. So we got an R squared of 0.5. Which is quite high. In a normal election, that R squared would be 0. Okay, so R squared is a measure of that these are correlated. In a normal election, they would not be correlated. That's the whole thing about disjoint sets.
Right.
Okay, so the next slide shows another one. Okay,
By the way, shout out to Mr. Wonderful. Thank you. Yep, great. We're happy to be live again. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here.
Okay, so the upper left is the overall race on District A and Measure 2B, which is, and now we show on the right, we show the Republican versus the Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
So McAllister and N versus the inverse of Taggart and Yes, and they're in lockstep. And then the lower left is District D in Measure 2B, lockstep. District E in Measure 2B, lockstep.
Wow.
Next slide. And that one's got a correlation of 0.472.
Wow.
So any correlation at all is
suspect.
Indicates that something's been done.
Mathematical impossibility without software intervention would be my guess.
Well, again, the chance that one of these could occur is 1 in 12.
Right.
But 9 of them occurring, even if you just say they're 1 in 12, it's 12 to the 9th.
Correct. It's insane.
Something billion. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can go through these pretty quickly here. The next one
Karen Crowder, by the way, on X is asking who is doing this to us and for what reason.
That's a good question. I was asked that question by a state representative in Arizona, and I gave the wrong answer. I said I don't know, and the answer is less I don't know and more like let's why don't you subpoena the people who wrote this software and ask them who told them to do it.
Right.
And so what do we have? We have the Venezuelan whistleblowers.
Yes, we do.
And that's what they're telling us. Okay. And but again, we don't really know. Well, we talk about it in a minute about how this all happened. It's the Hugo Chavez 2003 and
right.
And
all right, we'll park that. We'll park that on the side of the road. Let's finish this presentation.
Okay. So the next one's in we're down to the third set of graphs here.
You want to go back
to another one? Okay, so this is district. So okay, so this one is District E, the overall race, marijuana, 2B, so forth. And you can see now. Okay, with the next slide, we did this one already.
Right.
Okay, the next slide is the Measure 2A tax hike, overall race, with Andrews and Wrights and
because everybody wants to raise their taxes.
Yeah, this is what it shows you, that everybody it's even worse than that, because it's like while the machines are running, the Democrats and Republicans by telepathy change their votes together. You see, because they're not going to change a yes vote. They're going to change no votes, but they changed no votes on Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
So all the Democrats and Republicans that voted no, at the time these ballots are being run through the machine, they by telepathy change their votes. Okay? Because this is all we're looking at is the results they gave us of the process where they tabulated the ballots. Okay? We're not allowed to look at the ballots. We're not allowed to see anything else but this cast vote record that they produced for us. Okay, we're not allowed to look at anything.
So these slides are showing both lockstep and anti-parallel movement.
Well, in Arapahoe, they were moving together,
right,
down the line. Here, what happens is these go up while these go down. These go down while these go up. They're
right.
an anti-lockstep. Okay. So it's just we just invert one of them and then they lie on top of each other.
All right. So then I guess maybe the other question would be, why are ballot measures where you're seeing, yes, no's, et cetera, not actual candidate races, often the clearest indicator of algorithmic interference?
It gets a little deep here, because basically we're trying to build these disjoint sets.
Right.
Okay. So in Nevada in 2020, we made the disjoint sets with Biden, Trump in mail, Trump in early, Biden in mail, Biden in early. Okay, so make four sets that you can compare to each other. We in about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, a suggestion was made that why are all these abortion measures passing? Why are all these tax measures passing? People don't want to raise their taxes. Why are all these passing? So we started looking at ballot measures, and this is all that comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, we just started. This is weird stuff. I mean, we've seen so much weird stuff. Here's more weird stuff. Let's look at the ballot measures.
They're branding us a bunch of lunatics that want to pay more and kill our babies. That's basically what they're telling us, that America has become nothing but a bunch of baby murdering,
if you look at these,
tax loving lunatics.
These abortion measures, like in 2020 in Colorado, there was it would have been a prohibition against abortion after 22 weeks. But that's really 26 weeks, because it's from the time that you find out you're pregnant. So it's really 26 weeks. And it lost, of course. It didn't get passed. But the measure B that we're looking at, which was to eliminate a constitutional amendment that capped property taxes. And so it's really funny about that one in particular, because the Measure B was, we can tell that they pushed it to get to 55%.
Right.
Because in order to enact a constitutional amendment, you have to reach 55%. So they rigged this so it was just over 55%.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out to remove one, it's only 50%. So they even showed it a little more, that they only needed to rig it to 50%. But they rigged it to 55% because they misread the rules. So these things become pretty obvious. These things are not proof in court, but they add to the pile of conclusion direction, right?
Right.
So in my opinion, the if you look at polls, you find that 75 or 80% of Republicans or conservatives are totally against abortion after a month or two, maybe 60, maybe 3. So 15 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks.
Right.
Completely against it, 85%. And Democrats are 60 or 70% against late-term abortion too. So why are all these late-term abortion measures passing? It's because they have to keep the flow of child sacrifices and body parts, organ parts.
Yeah.
I mean, James O'Keefe found that, or no, Project Veritas. That was no, it was Jim Fitton with his group. The legal group.
Judicial Watch.
Judicial Watch.
Tom Fenton.
Tom Fitton. Yeah. Judicial Watch found that the Department of Health or the CDC or one of those operations had a price list for fresh baby parts, and that's why Planned Parenthood operates. They would abort the babies and they would separate their parts and sell them to the federal government.
Yeah. And Fauci likes to put the brain, the skulls of the babies on little rats and I mean, it's or the
$550 for a head.
Yeah, it's
just and they have to be fresh.
And they have to be fresh. All right, let's not. We had a few more slides we got to get through here, and we're getting short on time. So let's go get through this.
The big game is coming still. This is
And so in 2020, Roger, Mesa County showed 85% straight ticket voting.
Yeah,
but in 2021, the election that number actually collapsed to around 45%. Is that? I mean, you go from 85% to straight ticket voting to a 45% collapse of straight ticket voting. Is that even possible organically? I mean, people are usually lever pullers. RRRDDD. 85% will pull levers, and it collapses to 45%.
That's not evidence. That's not evidence. Okay.
Okay.
It's consequential, and it's circumstantial. Okay. So back up one. Back up one. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was the fourth election.
Yep.
Of the start. Okay, so this is a completely different way we analyze things. In Mesa County, it was with just the president, House of Representatives, and Senate. You had 86% of the people voting in both over countywide and in Grand Junction on the 3 federal ballots. 85% of the people voted straight ticket, which is all 3 Republicans, okay, or all 3 Democrats, straight tickets, Republican and Democrat. And then I separated out the Grand Junction. Mm-hmm. Then I did it for the all 5 races that were partisan races, the board of education and the county commission. So 72% countywide and in Grand Junction voted straight ticket all the way across all five partisan issues in the election. Okay. So 85% voted straight ticket. So then in Grand Junction in 2021, 6 months later, there's only 7,700. It should be okay. So we got 16,000 votes here, and if you had 85%, you would have more like you'd have like 15,000.
Right.
Okay, and based on Mesa County, that would be you'd have 10,000 of those would be Republican straight party tickets, and 5,000 would be Democrat state party tickets because they voted 3-2. Okay, so what do we see? We see 4,898. That's close to 5,000 Democrat straight tickets. But we only see 2,800, under 3,000 Republican straight tickets. There should be 10,000 of those. What happened to the missing 7,500 straight ballot tickets on the Republican side?
That's right.
Where did they go? Okay, well, I'm going to show you where they went.
All right.
Okay, so now this is a timing belt analysis. This is kind of an interesting thing that Edward came up with. In a normal election, you see the green line there is a 45-degree line from 0 to 1. So this goes from the lower axis goes from 0 to 1. The left axis, the y-axis goes from 0 to 1. What's on the x-axis is the fraction of votes of the total number of votes that have been tallied at that point in ballot time. Where each ballot coming in is the next tick of the clock. Okay. And on the y-axis is the fraction of straight ticket ballots that have come in at that point, at whatever point in the overall count process. Mm-hmm. So like at 0.4 of if this was a normal election, when you got to 0.4 of the all ballots being counted, you would expect to see 0.4 of the straight ticket ballots counted too.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that's the 45-degree line. That's what you'd see would be normal. Yes, there would be a little bit of fuzz on it because of randomness, because it's not a smooth curve. It's, this ballot came in and then maybe it was a little while before the next one came in. So you'd see a little jiggle on that line, but it would be on the 45-degree line pretty much.
Right. Okay,
the factor that we calculate from this, if in a normal election, this factor we call tau would be 0, or so close to 0, 0. So what we actually see is the purple line that's close to the green line, and it's not lining up with the 45 degrees. Okay, what that indicates is that straight ticket ballots are not coming in evenly distributed. They're coming in slowly at the beginning, and then they catch up at the end, because they both have to be at 0 in the beginning and they both have to be at 100% at the end.
Right.
But so they're coming in slowly. So you see like 18% when you counted 20% of the overall count, you've only got 18% of the straight tickets. And at 80%, you've got 78%. It's always behind until the end when it catches up. Okay, so this shows manipulation. And we can put a real hard number on this. Okay, so go to the next slide. Shows this is where I separated out the Republican and the Democrat. You can see the Republican one is much farther from the green line than the other.
Right. Okay,
and that results from the 7,500 ballots that should be straight ticket, but they aren't anymore. Okay, so the next one.
Okay.
The next one shows how we get our tau number. Okay. Now, because each ballot is their ballots come in units of one ballot, unlike we've seen in other places where they get fractional ballots, but these really come in one ballot at a time. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so if you look at the bottom again, at halfway through this thing, from the last time the straight ticket ballot came in, maybe I've counted 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 other ballots, and then the next one comes in. So what that makes, it makes this line that we're looking at as a step line. Okay. When the next ballot comes in, it steps up to the next percentage on the y-axis. So so what we do is we can find, we're measuring the area under the bowed curve, the arced curve.
Right.
And so the way but because it's stepped, we can make an exact measurement. It's not like taking an integral of something we don't know the formula. We can actually measure the exact area of that curve. And the way we do that is that, the first one comes in, it makes a triangle because it goes from 0 to some point and then jumps up to 1. Okay, and so we do that. We make a rectangle and a triangle for each time we find each time the next straight ticket ballot comes in, we make a new triangle and rectangle and we add up their area. We totalize the area across the whole thing. Okay, so we got a very precise measurement of that area. And we calculate our factor tau, which is the logarithm of the area over 1 minus the area. So
this is getting a little too technical, I think, Roger.
Well, it's just a way of looking at it. So you have the area over 1 minus the area. This is what's important, okay? So if it was on the 45-degree line, the area would be 0.5, and that ratio would be 0, because the area would be 0.5 over 1 minus 0.5.
Mm-hmm.
So if the area is different than 0.5, we have a value in there that under the area and 1 minus the area. Okay, so the logarithm gives us a measure of a number, and so what we find is that the logarithm of 0, the logarithm of area over 1 minus the area, if there was 1/2, the area over 1 minus the area, the ratio would be 1. But in this case, for instance, in my example here, the area underneath is the area under the whole thing is like 0.45.
Right.
Okay. So the area 0.45 over the area minus 1 is 0.55, and we have a fractional area. We have a fraction there, so it's less than 1.
Right.
So the logarithm has a negative value because it's a power of that. Okay, so the logarithm has a negative value, and that value has a lot of meaning. Okay, so if the bow, we've seen some where the bow is above. Okay, that means the ballots came in fast and then slowed down at the end to catch up. So with a negative number here, which that comes from the logarithm. Okay, when the fraction is less than 1, the logarithm is negative. When the fraction is more than 1, the logarithm is positive. Okay, so basically we add up the area of the triangles and rectangles. We calculate tau across the whole thing, and then in a fair election, tau will be small, near 0, because it's close to the 45-degree. And if the ST ballots are evenly distributed, as they would be in a fair election, the steps would be very close to the 45-degree line, and tau would be very small.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we go to the real election. Next slide.
Yeah, but I want to just set this up, though, because we're going to be talking about what's called the sigma event in this shuffle test.
Yes.
And here you're running a precinct-preserved shuffle test.
Well, let's
what I need you to define, what is a shuffle test and why is a shuffle test considered?
Let me do it with the next slide. Yeah,
I'm going to pull it up. I'm just sort of teeing it up here because this is so much information. People look at this and their eyes glaze over. So I'm trying to draw out of you what we need to know without trying to read everything on the screen.
Okay, so I wrote a program to do this. Okay, actually for another thing a long time ago, and I adapted it to do this particular case. But so up in the upper left corner, you see the tau of the actual cast vote record numbers. Mm-hmm. Okay, the tau from the actual cast vote record numbers is 0.039, 0.4, close to 0.4. Okay. So then what you have is you had 5 precincts in this election. Okay. And so what we do is we keep a pile that's in order of the ballots coming in, so that the x-axis is always the same x-axis.
Mm-hmm.
Ballots coming in, but we mark which precinct each ballot is in. Okay. So then what we do is after we take the original tau, we shuffle the ballots between the people in each precinct, 5 precincts. So all the the 600 6 or 7 or 1,000 ballots in this precinct,
Right.
we just shuffle that. So it's the same people. We're not changing anything. We're not doing anything funny. It's like blackjack table. They just shuffle the deck. Okay. So there's a different order of the straight ticket ballots within that precinct, and it's random. It's a random shuffle. Okay. There's tools within the software development package to create these things, and they're used for all kinds of things that are way beyond, that need more accuracy than we do. Okay, so we shuffle the ballots within each precinct, and then we run this again. We measure the tau across this random shuffle. Okay, so what you see there, the original tau is 0.39. The first shuffle, after the first shuffle, it's 0.003. It's 1/10 after the first shuffle. It's that much closer to the 45-degree line after the first shuffle. Okay? And we do the shuffle and recalculate tau 4,194,304 times. Okay? So we're doing 4 million plus shuffles. And you can see that the second one is 0.002, smaller. The third one is 0.004. They bounce up and down because it's a random shuffle. But we're getting numbers like 1.6 times 10 to the minus 5. That's really close to the 45. Okay? We do 4 million of these. All right, and we take the average of the tau of all those 4 million, and the standard deviation of those 4 million, and the chance, the sigma, it's a bell curve, and finding 0.0399 is H sigma off to the right.
What are the odds of that? What are the odds of an 8 sigma event?
Well, H sigma turns into your thing is stepping on all the numbers, but H sigma translates to a probability of 1 chance in 2.16 quadrillion.
Huh. So I'm guessing that proves something mathematically there, Roger?
It proves that the order that the straight ticket ballots arrive in the tabulation process.
Mm-hmm.
That order that they show in the cast vote record has a chance of 1 in 2 quadrillion of happening naturally. Okay. So that order is so unique that it could only have been produced by some kind of algorithm.
Right. And
the algorithm, I believe the algorithm is, okay, if you go to the next slide, talk about how.
Well, I mean, as far as from where I'm sitting, and a lot of this stuff, I'm going to be honest, a lot of this stuff, when you talk tau and all this math stuff, it's very complex. It's clearly, I didn't get to those math classes. I got to and stop there. But the conclusion is simple, right? The Grand Junction election completely rigged.
It is that, as you're counting, I count a few hundred ballots, and then bang, I get a straight ticket. Okay. Then I count 600 ballots, and I get another straight ticket.
Right.
How far apart they are determines how far below that 45-degree line this is.
So what you're showing mathematically is Tina was right? Grand Junction was totally rigged.
So this shows what it seems they must be doing. We can't prove that this is exactly what they're doing, but when we look at this from starting point and run through this, we get the same kind of results. So the left-hand line here is a straight line, and that shows that we're increasing that's what this is what gives us they count them slowly in the beginning, and then they ramp up at the end when they know how many they need left. Okay, that's the baseline of slow to fast. Then this squiggly curve in the middle here is what we call the flip function. So if the ballot comes in here at this percentage, can you see my cursor?
No.
No. Okay. So like the first peak there is that they're not going to, they want this to pass, so they're not going to mess with any or they want the Democrats to win. They're not going to mess with any Democrat vote, or they're not going to mess with any yes vote. So if that first peak there, what's the chance that they're going to flip a no vote, or if they're going to flip a candidate? Okay, so at that first thing, at 3% of the votes coming in, the probability they're going to flip it is 80%. The bottom down there, it's very low that they're going to flip that ballot. They're not going to flip any of the ones they want, but they're going to flip some others, and they're going to flip them, with this varying probability that they're going to flip it. It's like a fixed coin toss, and how much it's fixed changes across the counting process.
Right. So
you combine those two curves together, and you get the third graph, where you see it going up and down, and going up, and on the slope too. Okay. If you apply this to the ballots, you get the lockstep motion, and you get the tau. So they're applying some kind of algorithm that does this kind of varying chance that they're going to flip that ballot coming in across the timing, with increasing chance that it's going to flip at the end.
Right.
And what does it do? This is the ones on the right are simulations. So you've got a simulation of a unrigged election on the top three, and everything's random. You apply that flip function to that election, and what do you get? You get lockstep motion, and you get tau.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think that slide, I think this piece right here, the top right quadrant, is probably the best slide to give you a clear illustration of the difference between lockstep and what a natural election would look like.
Right. A natural election would look like the middle top.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And the middle bottom is after that flip function has been applied.
Right.
So it produces the lockstep motion, and it also produces this difference. So go back to the last slide. Previous slide. Okay. Next one. Okay. The lockstep motion and the timing belt analysis prove that there was manipulation. Okay. We can't say how many votes exactly they flipped. We can't say who they flipped them from or what they flipped them to. But we can prove that the outcome is a forgery.
Right.
So we got to talk about Article 4, Section 4. It says the United States shall guarantee the states a republican form of government. When this is happening, we do not have a republican form of government. Our votes are not choosing our representatives. We're not having a representative form of government. We haven't had one for years and years. Okay. That's why they do things that don't make any sense, because they're not responsible to their constituents. They're only responsible to the masters of the machines.
That's right.
Or the masters of the software. So what I'm looking at in that slide, stay on that slide for a second. So the lockstep motion shows that their manipulations were used. The timing belt analysis shows that the straight ticket ballots are shifted. The only conclusion is that there should have been 10,000 straight ticket Republican ballots.
Right.
What we saw with that flip function is they weren't flipping any of the Democrat ones. That's why we see 5,000 Democrat ones. They were only flipping Republicans to Democrats to win these races. So when they flip one Republican off a straight ticket, it's not a straight ticket anymore.
Correct.
And that's why we have this analysis.
Right.
Because it's only the surviving straight tickets.
And that's why you saw in some areas, I mean, well, they actually, what they did was they applied this to the down ballot races in 2024. You know, we were able to stop the Trump steal, but we didn't stop the down ballot steals. And a lot of precincts that were very red voted blue, even though they voted for Trump.
I think that they planned it that way, actually.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think they planned it. They planned to have everybody worried about stealing Trump for Kamala being the president, and that they set it up so it looked that way, like they were going to do it. And guess what? Trump wins. Oh, everybody's happy. No, nothing to worry about.
Everybody's happy until locally your town is being taken over by Sharia law. Then you're not so happy.
Well, the local elections are one thing, but it was the House and the Senate.
Well, yeah. Trump should have had 30 or more.
He should have on his coattails in the House, and he should have had 8 or 9 senators. We should probably have a pretty near a supermajority in both houses right now.
We should,
and we don't. And so again, they got away with it again. And what's happening next? 2026.
Yeah.
And nothing's been fixed. Nothing's been fixed. Okay, so now I sent you the other things about how we should run elections.
Well, just give us the summary, because we're pushing up on time, and I've got actually another show I've got to tape after this. So just walk us through it. I'm not going to pull them up.
The registrations are a hopeless cause. Mm-hmm. There's, short of throwing them all out and re-registering everybody, which I don't think anyone's going to do. Okay, the Real ID Act has wording in it that the Secretary of Homeland Security can at her discretion add things that you need a Real ID for. They also the Department of Homeland Security is in charge of election security and election monitoring, and they've made the equipment and the registration lists are now critical infrastructure. I believe that the Secretary of Homeland Security could, by herself, order that you need to show up in a particular precinct that matches your residence address and present your Real ID with that residence address to be issued a ballot.
Ooh.
I think she could do that today.
So essentially what you're suggesting is we don't need to register to vote. We just need to have our Real ID and prove that we live in the precinct, and they present our ballot.
Yeah, it does. And it proves you're a citizen too.
Interesting.
And just bypass the registration altogether. Or maybe because the registration is too easy. I mean, the registration, you check the box and you say under penalty of perjury. How many people have ever been caught doing that? None. Zero.
Right.
Okay. And so, this other thing that you see going on where once in a while you hear they've arrested a few people for voting twice. Well, that maybe makes people feel good, but there's tens of millions of fake registrations. I think we need to get rid of registration altogether, and we have the replacement. It's already there. It wasn't there. It wasn't there in 2002 when HAVA was put in place.
Right.
That made the registrations important, but now we have the Real ID Act. It's in place. It's required for your flying on the airplane. So instead of taking the trouble to get registered to vote, go get your Real ID and then show up at the precinct on election day. And they can do it for federal elections. I mean, there's only 3 at most. In a presidential election, there's three candidates there's your House of Representatives, the Senate, and the president. And in a midterm, there's only 2 at most. Okay. So hand counting that, you have two piles, right? This one's, you have two piles, Senate and House. Okay, you just pile them up. Look at how high the piles are. You know who won. It just for federal election, the 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 Secretary of Homeland Security could implement this tomorrow or today.
Yeah.
I
We have the tools.
I
We have the tools,
I
right?
think voter registration actually violates the amendment, the 14th Amendment, which or the 21st Amendment says no poll taxes, no impediment to voting. Okay, I think having to register is an impediment to voting.
Right.
Okay.
There you go. In any case where the ID does not match the list that from the precinct, the individual would be denied access to a ballot. Again, and you would know if the person actually requested an absentee ballot because it would be pulled from the precinct.
But that has to go back to being like it used to be, where you'd have to request it, have to have a reason, and have to
exactly.
go to the registrar's office to get it.
Yep.
And it would be small numbers. I mean, like in Michigan before 2020, there were 8,000.
Yep.
Absentee ballots. And what do they do? What do they do with the military ballots anyway? They kept them from being counted anyway.
I know. That was insane.
They have as many mail ballots as you want, but you're not going to count the military ones.
Not going to count the military. Wow.
This is a horror show.
Okay, so we can safely conclude, Roger, that Tina Peters had all the marbles. She knew exactly what was going on. She saw the significance.
I don't agree. What happened in Grand Junction was certainly enough to trigger her to do what she did and to have that analyzed. And she was completely, I think this completely justifies every bit of her actions and demonstrates that she's a political prisoner and they're keeping her silenced this way.
Right. Well,
what this does is she didn't know this stuff. I mean, we just got this stuff the last couple of weeks. Right. This is when we got this worked out. But basically what we're doing is we're proving that they're using algorithms to change outcomes. We can't say what the changes they made are. We can't say this, can't say that, but we can prove that these machines are leaving us without the Article 4 guarantee of a Republican form of government.
That's right.
And so that's actually the basis for the case in Nevada that Andy Thompson has got underway, is that, and the beyond that is that the legislatures that were elected this way, they can't fix it. You have to. Edward's remedy is the current legislature cannot run in the next election. They can run after that, just the next election. They cannot run.
Right.
So we get a new legislature of new people that they can fix it, because it's the state legislatures that have to fix election.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Okay, even though the federal elections have guidelines, the states run them. You're absolutely right. They're gonna have
the remedy is not let's line them up 200,000 people in firing squads, because
I was just gonna say it's not line them up and shoot them. No, okay.
Well, I mean, in some ways, some of the ringleaders, maybe they should be.
They committed treason, Roger.
It's treason. Yeah, treason. I know. But see, the thing is, what Edward's got a very interesting outlook at this. He says that basically we should guarantee amnesty to anyone who confesses fully.
They've had how many years to confess for this? I'm sorry. Tina's sitting in jail, rotting. She's very sick.
See, the thing is, if they confess now without amnesty, they're going to be convicted of treason, because it says treason, confession thereof is conviction.
Right.
Okay, so if they're guaranteed amnesty for fully confessing this thing, you're going to have a lot of people telling their story.
That's right.
Okay, well, and Roger, anybody who doesn't tell their story goes to prison or goes to the firing squad. So, we have to do it. We have to do it so people know we're going to do it. We have to have the conviction to follow through with this stuff and convict some people of treason.
I couldn't agree more. I
It's
could not agree
extremely
more.
rare. It's
We've passed
extremely
the point of no return, Roger. All right, Roger, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to let that be the last word here because that's
okay.
pretty powerful what you're saying. But God bless you, Edward Solomon, for the work that you guys have done. I know it's tedious, it's mathematical, it's way above most of our heads, but it empirically shows.
There's more to come.
I'm sure there is.
We're figuring out how to undo the flip function so we can actually tell how
Prove.
many votes were flipped.
Well, you'll be able to prove how they did it.
Well, no,
That's-
we'll be able to tell how many votes were flipped.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because if we can undo the flip function, if we can invert the flip function, we can restore what the original was.
And then we'll be able to see exactly who.
I don't know if we'll be able to do it, but we're trying to figure
My
out.
money is on you guys will get it done. I believe it. Roger Fuller, you're amazing. Thank you for that. And I really do appreciate you coming by and explaining this. And I know that this information has been sent over to the DOJ. I hope they have people as smart as you and Ed Solomon in there that are helping them understand what you wrote.
Tell them to give me a call and I'll
You got it. I'm going to send somebody an email with some phone numbers. That's for sure.
Okay. Please do.
You got it. All right,
Okay.
Roger. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
You got it. Goodness gracious, that is a mind bender. But you know what? There's nobody brighter. Ed Solomon and Roger Fuller are just incredibly smart. And I'm blessed that he was able to come on and share this. We really want this documented for posterity and for those that are going to do something about this besides we the people. The levers of power, as we have them set right now with the Department of Justice, they need all the evidence they can get to prosecute these evildoers. And today we actually confronted a truth that was so powerful that the political establishment has spent years trying to bury it in sealed court filings, gag orders, media smears, and of course, finally, poor Tina Peters rotting in a prison cell. But as you just saw, the numbers aren't lying. The patterns don't lie. The sequence of ballots don't lie. The shuffle tests do not lie. The data Tina Peters preserved at enormous personal cost proves she was right. And that is why they came after her, not because she broke the law, but because she broke the silence. Tina Peters did what every elected official in this country swears to do. She defended the Constitution. She upheld the guarantee clause. That's what Roger was talking about. She protected the integrity of the vote. And today's evidence shows that the American people, what Colorado courts refused to allow jurors to see, that the elections Tina questioned were mathematically impossible, algorithmically manipulated, and statistically engineered. We don't need sympathy. We don't even need politics. We need justice. And justice requires one thing. Tina Peters must be released immediately. And to the people of Colorado, your clerk went to prison for you. And to the American people, Tina's fight is your fight. And to Tina, my dear friend, if you're watching, we're not going to stop. We're never going to forget, and we're going to bring you home. That's all for now. I'll be back later tonight with another show. We're interviewing somebody by the name of Paul Renner, a name you're going to become more familiar with. He's running for governor here in Florida, and I'm having a conversation with him. On that note, God bless America. God bless the defenders of truth. And God bless Tina Peters. Thanks so much. We'll catch you later on this evening. Hi, I'm Ann Vandersteel. I want to talk to you a little bit about your health. Part of my daily routine is to get up in the morning and get a little exercise on. If I have time for a mile or 7, doesn't matter. I get out the door every single day. It's important to get my body moving and get that oxygen flowing through my brains. What is also equally important is what I put in my body after I exercise. I rely on vandersteelhealth.com, where I have a delicious selection of superfoods and other supplements. But first and foremost for me are my superfoods. I have a delicious shake every single day. It is organic, all made in the United States of America, non-GMO, never processed before, dehydrated superfoods. And when they reconstitute with water, milk, or whatever juice you like, it makes a delicious, healthy, plant-based protein supplement. And I say supplement because, frankly, I use this as a meal replacement. This is what's helped me lose the last 20 pounds of COVID and back down to my fighting college weight, fitting in my college clothes, and feeling better than ever. So go to vandersteelhealth.com and get your delicious superfoods. Get on the transformation program with us. It's a 30-day kickoff, and it will get your day starting out great, and watch the weight just fall off, watch the energy increase, the brain fog lift, and of course the ancillary benefits in your hair, skin, and nails. All these things, you are what you eat. Remember that. Go to vandersteelhealth.com.